Emotions and Communication by Tanis Hayden. A quote by David Caruso. It is very important to understand that emotional intelligence is not the opposite of intelligence. It is not the triumph of heart over head. It is the unique intersection of both. This quote by David Caruso differentiates emotional intelligence as leading with the heart rather than the head. Emotional intelligence. Gamble and Gamble define emotional intelligence as the ability to motivate oneself, to control impulses, to recognize and regulate one's mood, to empathize, and to hope. Emotional intelligence is a key component to communication. Emotional intelligence is directly related to success in personal relationships. For example, as Gamble and Gamble describe on page 209, if we have the ability to understand and manage our emotions, and also be sensitive to others' feelings, when we are better able to get along with the majority of people, no matter the level of diversity or context of the relationship. If one is able to understand, empathize, and be sensitive to another person's feelings, that individual is better able to navigate relationships with an array of diverse individuals. One's ability to understand that individual people react differently to emotional states and accept those reactions reflects emotional intelligence and empathy. Emotional intelligence invokes empathy in relationships and situations. It also helps with mood regulation and impulse control. Range of emotions. Most human beings experience a broad array of emotions, which is human nature. The high emotions are directly related to happiness and the positive effects of communication in relationships. And the low emotions are directly related to the negative effects and communications in a relationship. We have to experience one in order to appreciate the other. Feelings are reactions to perceptions which build a framework within a relationship. One's ability to be in touch with and express emotions allows for a more balanced range. How do we find the optimal balance? We need to be in touch with our feelings in order to communicate them. Emotional contagion. You plus me equals we. Emotional contagion is described as the ability to catch another person's mood. This process is the process by which one individual unconsciously mirrors or imitates another person's mood by simply interacting with them. The more empathetic we are to another's feelings, the more we are susceptible to catching or adopting their mood. Gamble and Gamble say our moods may be contagious. According to psychologist Elaine Hatfield, we do this by unconsciously mirroring the moods of others. Mirror neurons are defined as neurons that fire both when an animal acts and when the animal observes the same action performed by another. Thus, the neuron mirrors the behavior of the other as though the observer were itself acting. Such neurons have been directly observed in primate species. Communication skills. Gamble and Gamble described communication as a deliberate or accidental transfer of meaning. It is important to practice handling feelings effectively. In an effort to effectively communicate, you have to let others know what feelings you have trouble navigating. Gamble and Gamble also highlight the importance of considering other people's feelings along with your own. The top 10 communication skills are said to be emotional intelligence, cohesion and clarity, friendliness, confidence, empathy, respect, listening, open-mindedness, tone of voice, and asking questions. Communication apprehension. Gamble and Gamble define communication apprehension as the fear of communicating with others in any form or context. It is important to note that 20% of the population has this trait of being communication apprehensive, meaning that a large portion of our population struggles to connect and communicate with others. Public speaking anxiety is a form of communication apprehension. Complexities of emotion and communication. A brain state is a snapshot of everything in the central nervous system. A brain state is said to contain everything about a person: memories, emotions, skills, opinions, and knowledge. Our emotions and emotional brain states show in our body language and tone. We may end up communicating more through these other forms of language than with actual words. Verbal and nonverbal communication. Examples of nonverbal communication of this type include handshaking, patting on the back, hugging, or other forms of touch. Other nonverbal communication includes facial expressions, gestures, and eye contact. When someone is talking, they notice changes in facial expressions and respond accordingly. Communication is composed of 7% verbal language or words, 38% tone and voice, and 55% is body language. Complexities of emotions and communication continued. Primary emotions are unthinking, instinctive responses that we have. We will typically see these in animals also, which confirms our suspicion that they have an evolutionary basis. Typical primary emotions include fear, anger, sadness, and happiness. Secondary emotions are emotional reactions we have to the other emotions. For example, a person may feel ashamed as a result of becoming anxious or sad. In this case, anxiety would be a primary emotion, while shame would be the secondary emotion. The anger iceberg is a visual example. The tip of the iceberg is the symptom of the underlying emotions. So anger, for example, is a symptom of fear, insecurity, or worry.